What makes a person intelligent? Usually we associate intelligence with a wealth of insight, information, and the applications of knowledge in such a way that someone is able to accomplish what may seem miraculous, or in a supervillain's case, what may seem exceptionally villainous. Supervillains typically use their intellect to conquest, attempting to achieve more power, more money, or dominance over others. Sometimes they just want their enemies to suffer. Today we are going to look at some of these villains that have been deemed intellects, and some of the plots that made us question whether or not they were actually as smart as we thought, as we count down the top 10 supervillains who are dumber than you think. Trust me, some of these plots will have you scratching your head too in regards to how someone so brilliant could do something so stupid. But before we get counting, a grandiose thank you to Universal Studios for sponsoring this video and this giveaway. That's right, a giveaway. Yesterday is a brand new film coming to us from Universal Studios that follows the journey of Jack Malik, a struggling singer-songwriter from an English seaside town, who one day wakes up to discover that the world has been changed and that the Beatles never existed. Performing songs by the greatest band in history to a world that has never heard them, Jack becomes an overnight sensation with a little help from his agent. It's a quirky and charming fantasy film that is being released on DVD and Blu-ray today, October 24th. You can celebrate this release with us too by joining our giveaway. If you want to be entered to win a copy of this fantastic film, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Top10NerdOfficial. Like the contest picture and tag 2 friends who you would watch this movie with. You can enter the contest until Thursday, October 26th, and we will be announcing our winners on Friday, October 27th. Alright, let's get counting. Number 10. The Lizard. Curt Connors is a scientist working on the regrowth of lost limbs, so we'd expect him to be pretty intelligent, right? Normally he is presented as such, but there was one storyline that made us question everything we knew about him. Curt Connors is also the Lizard, transformed after one of his experiments on limb regrowth goes terribly wrong. While in his monstrous lizard state, it has often been shown that Connors is not in control really of what he does, becoming more animalistic. In a sense, he is somewhat a victim himself who knows not what he does. But what if he did know? In the Lizard's Tale story arc from Spectacular Spider-Man, we explore the idea that Curt is more in control of the Lizard than we were originally led to believe. Which is weird, because it would mean that a lot of his other actions in the comics are dumb and just don't really make any sense. In the end, his plan to thwart Spider-Man is to rob a bank and get arrested so that he can easily break out of prison, which he figures won't actually be able to hold him. So this is an interesting version of the villain indeed, but not a particularly smart one. Number 9. Loki. The Avengers have come a long way in the MCU, from defeating Loki to taking on and defeating Thanos twice. And one time he had a whole army with him to back him up, so yeah. Pretty impressive, especially considering in the cinematic universe Loki was pretty easy to beat. That might be a controversial opinion, but let's take a second look at Loki's plan. Loki was of course being manipulated by Thanos, or rather encouraged by him, to follow this plan through. Not that he knew it was Thanos. While Thanos has his own ulterior motives, Loki was looking for appreciation and world domination, groveling and bowing down, and that sort of thing. Loki has an army incoming to invade and help him take over Earth. The problem is, this invasion is tied to a portal. It's basically at the core of everything that is going on. So, what does Loki do? Heavily guard it to make sure no one tampers with it? No. He leaves it on the roof of the Stark Tower, where no one could possibly find it, right? Anyways, Iron Man guides a nuke through the portal, and well, that's the end of the invasion, making Loki's plot a pretty mischievously easy one to thwart. Number 8. Joker. While the Joker may be pretty good at causing Batman a world of grief and scheming to destroy the Bats, and often in the process Gotham, his intellect always seems to come into question. While criminally speaking the Joker seems to be a psychotic genius, there are some plans that have left us questioning some of the whys behind his antics. In fact, sometimes it seems as though his intellect may have been carried off by his madness when it comes to some of his random plots. Like the plot where he became a successful painter and teacher and then just got bored. Or when he tried to copyright Fish. Yeah, remember that? But the most disturbed and pointless plot seemed to be the one where he let the doll maker skin off his face to send a message. Though what the message was, well, we never quite found that out. Number 7. Dr. Octopus. Doc Ock is typically known for being a brilliant scientist, but this plot he attempted might cause you to see him differently. In order to control a nuclear plant that Aunt May had inherited, which is for some reason abandoned and yet also fully functional, Doc Ock decides there is only one course of action to take, one that will see him gloriously victorious in terms of possessing this plant: marrying Aunt May. He could have stolen it from her, kidnapped her, and made her hand over the deed, just gone and just possessed it himself. I'm sure Aunt May wouldn't have even noticed that. She doesn't strike me as the nuclear facility type. She probably would have never even gone to it really. But no. None of these plans are good enough for Doc Ock. He's got to marry her, which really would only entitle him to half of the plant anyways, had it worked. Instead, Spider-Man swings in and saves the day, leaving Doc Ock behind as the plant goes into meltdown mode. Number 6. KRAVEN. So admittedly, I really love this story, but it still makes KRAVEN look pretty dumb. In KRAVEN's last hunt, KRAVEN kills Spider-Man. Admittedly, a great plan, direct, effective, except for the part where he doesn't. Near the end of the story, we find out that KRAVEN just put Peter in a death-like state for a few weeks so he could run around and imitate Spider-Man, to prove that he was better than him. As the only prey that KRAVEN seemed unable to catch, he felt this would prove, I don't know, some kind of point I guess, except that he is able to catch Spider-Man and then just doesn't kill him. Interesting choices here, KRAVEN. After Spider-Man has risen from the dead, KRAVEN confesses and continues to gloat. He ultimately decides that Spider-Man is free to go, then kills himself. I know that KRAVEN was going to make a point here, but I think it probably went over most people's heads, especially Spider-Man's. Number 5. Magneto. Granted, Magneto isn't intended to really be a villain in this storyline, but either way, he still acts pretty dumb. This story comes to us not from the comics, but from Days of Future Past, the X-Men movie where we see Wolverine go back in time to try and prevent the post-apocalyptic events of the future, which is really his past. Anyways, time travel's confusing. Magneto is trying to help prevent this future as well and aims to kill Mystique in order to do so before an event can take place where she was caught on camera and terrified all of humankind, causing the huge war between humans and mutants and the post-apocalyptic future. When this fails, Magneto decides to take control of Trask's Sentinels and have them kill the president, or attempt to kill the president. Not a terrible idea until he decides to fly in and drop a stadium on the lawn of the White House and confess publicly on television that he, a mutant, was responsible for all of the destruction. Ugh, my goodness. Why would you do that? That's just gonna cause a war, whatever. Number 4. Ozymandias. Adrian Veidt's villainous scheme to kill millions in order to obtain world peace seemed pretty brilliant. His fellow heroes never saw it coming, and he only revealed his plot after it had already taken place, being sure to cover his tracks as he went. He applauds himself and thinks he's the smartest man in the world. Even the rest of the Watchmen decide, well, they may as well join him. Except Rorschach. As such, Ozymandias underestimates his potential opponents, and Rorschach gets the better of him, despite Manhattan killing him. Beforehand, he was smart enough to send his journal with his findings surrounding Adrian's plan to the news. They decided to publish the information and expose Veidt for the villain he is, undoing everything he set out to accomplish and sending him into hiding. So, while he may claim to be the smartest man on Earth, Rorschach still seems to have outsmarted him, even in his death. Number 3. Dr. Doom. Victor Von Doom has had a slew of great plans, to be fair, but he has also had a slew of pretty terrible ones. One of his particularly ridiculous plans proves just how dumb the usual genius level intellect supervillain can be, and involved him swapping bodies with Daredevil. This plan could have been great, except it mostly just involves Dr. Doom messing with Daredevil, including a part involving a room that is giant-sized, set up as a test to prove that Daredevil is worthy of the planned body swap. Doom's plan seems to be to use Daredevil's connection to the Fantastic Four to do something. Defeat them, I guess? We never really get there. Daredevil handily defeats Doom while in his body by threatening to start a war between Latveria and China under the Doom guise. Doom knows this would not end well and agrees to swap back. Oh, and apparently, Dr. Doom doesn't seem to notice that Daredevil is blind, even while in his body. Number 2. Lex Luthor. While Lex Luthor may be the most brilliant Superman villain in the comics, his film adaptation leaves much to be desired, and it is for this reason that he made the cut. Don't believe me? You might need to rewatch Batman vs Superman again, which paints him as the villain behind the showdown between the two heroes, who are usually portrayed as being BFFs. Instead of making the president the one who issues the order and making the fight more revolve around their different ideologies and Batman sort of going a little crazy in his old age, they decide to put Lex Luthor at the center of this plot. This plot is so intricate and so haphazardly built on hoping that people will just make the moves that he anticipates. You could argue that Lex is just good at reading and manipulating people, but I'd wager that it's more likely that he's just lucky. If he was really a genius, he probably would have made the plan more direct, less room for things to go wrong. Just kidnap Martha and make them fight already. And let's not forget that Lex has no real motivation for this plan. At the very least, not Batman's involvement. And if you don't believe me that Lex Luthor did a bad job in this movie, just look back to the 2000s when Kevin Spacey played him and all of his plans just revolved around real estate. I don't know. Number 1. Green Goblin. In the 2000 Spider-Man films, we saw Norman Osborn meet his end in the stupidest of ways. For a villain that even in the film franchise is supposed to be a genius and a master manipulator, this was a pretty dumb move. He and Spider-Man are having a standoff, and he comes up with the brilliant idea mid-fight to finish off Spider-Man by impaling him with his glider. Mwahaha, brilliant! Except for the part where it's not. You see, the problem is that the Green Goblin is just behind Spider-Man, meaning that the glider would likely impale him too. This becomes more of an issue when he goes for it and Spider-Man, possessing, you know, Spidey sense and being just pretty quick to react to an attack, just jumps out of the way, leaving Green Goblin right in the center of the path of his own glider, and resulting in him just impaling himself and dying. Nice one, Norman. Thank you so much for watching Nerd Squad, and a big thank you to our sponsor Universal Pictures. So excited for yesterday's release today! And if you are too, be sure to enter our giveaway contest. I hope you enjoyed delving into the weird world of supervillain moments from otherwise brilliant supervillains with me. It just goes to show you that even intellectual supervillains make mistakes. And just because you are wicked smart in one area doesn't mean you are wicked smart in all areas. Who are your favorite brilliant supervillains? And what are your favorite dumb supervillain moments from comics? Are there any smart supervillains who you think are sometimes dumb that you feel should have made our cut? Let us know in the comments below. And before you scroll down, be sure to tap that like, smash that sub, and ring our bell. This is Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you to stay nerdy, YouTube.